Okay, so Sam's supposed to be getting extradited to the United States tonight. The Attorney General signed the papers and he's supposed to be on his merry way. Now, there's a problem with that because if they can get this idiot, I mean, you've seen his spaces, the guy's like a numpty. If they can get this banana to get up and say the things that he's been doing and say the things that he's done, they're gonna use this as the scapegoat. FTX, Sam, they're just a scapegoat to go ahead and to regulate this shit into the ground. That's what they want to do. That's what Gary Gensler wants to do.
Bankman-Fried faces 8 federal charges, including wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering.
Caroline Ellison, who is the co-CEO or the CEO of Alameda Research, and Gary Wang, who is the co-founder of FTX, have been cooperating.
First, I'm announcing that the Southern District of New York has filed charges against Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, and Gary Wang, a co-founder of FTX, in connection with their roles in the frauds that contributed to FTX's collapse.
The Stanford grad has apparently lawyered up and, according to one report, may turn on her boyfriend.
This could be one of the biggest frauds in history.
This morning, the one-time crypto king, Sam Bankman-Fried, is back in the U.S. after agreeing to be extradited from the Bahamas. Overnight, his plane landing at an airport in Westchester, New York, just outside of New York City. The former billionaire faces charges including wire fraud and money laundering, stemming from the dramatic collapse of his massive cryptocurrency exchange, FTX.
Samuel Bankman-Fried is now in FBI custody. He will appear in court before a judge in this district as soon as possible.
Billions of dollars vanished when the crypto firm imploded suddenly last month. Bankman-Fried denies that FTX misappropriated customer funds when it made loans to another one of his companies, Alameda, a hedge fund.
I made a lot of mistakes or things I would give anything to be able to do over again. I didn't ever try to commit fraud on anyone.
His extradition comes as 2 of Bankman-Fried's former associates have pleaded guilty to related charges. Again, Bankman-Fried now faces arraignment today here in New York, and a key question, Craig, is whether he'll be granted bail like Bernie Madoff was.
Just as I thought I was done making this video, right before I was about to upload, this news comes out. Sam Bankman-Fried has been placed on a highly restrictive bail with a $250 million bond posted. Guys, do you remember when Sam Bankman-Fried said he only had $100,000 left? Well, where the hell did this $250 million bond come from? Look at this. The U.S. prosecutor said that the government was proposing a bail package that included a $250 million bond, a home detention, where I guess he's going to be staying with his parents. So Sam Bankman-Fried gets extradited from the Bahamas to the U.S., faces his charges, somehow gets $250 million out of nowhere post-bond, and now he's walking around New York. The most corrupt thing you can imagine is what happened, and I'm really not even surprised. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys enjoyed that clip that I just put together there. A bit of a recap on all the things we've been seeing over the past few days that have to do with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. We now have the news that he has been extradited to the U.S. He has landed in the U.S. and it seems like all parties involved, Sam Bankman-Fried, Caroline Ellison, Gary Wang, are sort of turning on each other, taking plea deals, and trying to lower their sentences as much as possible. And now that he's finally here in the U.S., in New York, he is now going to face criminal charges. And one of the craziest parts of this is that if the convictions on all charges are met, he could go to prison for up to 115 years. And so what Sam Bankman-Fried has been saying is that the demise of FTX has been less about fraud itself and more about individual mistakes. And he's also, of course, blaming CZ from Binance for the collapse of FTX, and then CZ from Binance responding by just saying, you know, Sam, just go to court and start answering questions. These types of court proceedings could take literally years, multiple years, to fully play out. So we're not going to see a conclusion from this for a very long time. I want you guys to comment below. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think he's going to go to jail for 100 years, or is he going to get off easy? Is it going to be somewhere in the middle? Comment your thoughts below. And also, we're seeing interesting reports discussing how FTX was using the FTT token to make major purchases and use it as collateral. So this is kind of why the contagion spread so fast, was because FTX was using the FTT token and sort of dispersing it throughout the industry to make purchases. And a lot of people were probably holding on to the FTT token, and it went to zero basically. And so the contagion was able to spread much faster than people expected. Nobody saw it coming. And also, we're seeing that the SEC has classified the FTT token as a security, and people are now wondering if Binance's BNB could be next for this classification. So what we're probably going to see, guys, is that exchange tokens, exchanges that issue tokens are going to start getting their coins labeled as securities, and it's going to get pretty tricky over the next few years for the crypto industry. I think a lot of things are going to be regulated out of existence, or major changes are going to happen, and all these exchanges are going to have to sort of abide by new guidelines. And this is one of the reasons why I feel that crypto is having such a difficult time right now getting its foot on the ground. We're seeing today, I guess, the news, people aren't really liking the news that we're seeing with Sam Bankman-Fried, making his way into the US. But I mean, this price action is less to do with the news, and it's actually more to do with the stock market. What we're seeing today is that the stock market, the S&P 500, is down 2.7%. We saw a bounce yesterday. I saw a lot of people on crypto Twitter getting excited for that bounce, having hope, and today it was crushed straight back to the downside, seeing new lows on this correction here off of the year-long downward sloping resistance line that began just at the beginning of 2022. So, I mean, this is a clear lower high, lower low downtrend. It is a confirmed downtrend. In moving forward, we have to be very mindful of the fact that it is a downtrend. The trend is your friend until the end of the trend. And if you're trying to fight against the overall bearish macro pressure, you're probably not going to do so good. You're probably going to get hurt, right? Don't try to catch falling knives, and don't fight the trend. That is sort of a big mistake for a lot of traders, thinking that they're just going to snipe the next low and we're going to go off to the moon. Guys, the Fed is continuing to raise rates. The Fed is continuing to raise the terminal rate, and they could even adjust it higher in the next meeting. So regardless of the 50 basis points that were supposed to send us to the moon, well, they're actually raising the target terminal rate. So things could get worse, right? Things can always get worse before they get better. Now, that's not just to scare you, that's just to tell you the truth. Things can get worse before they can get better. And so when you look at the S&P 500 on the weekly chart, the long-term chart, what you see is that the 200-week moving average is really the recession threshold for the stock market. And a lot of people right now are saying we're not in a recession, and a lot of experts are saying, but we're probably going into one, and that next year could get even worse. And if that is true, well, that 200-week historically is sort of like the halfway point in these recession corrections. You're only halfway there after you cross that 200-week, which means it's possible that this comes down. You can see on the weekly right now, the S&P is really pulling back here. It could mean that we actually end up seeing a much, much more downside moving into 2023. And why not, right? Why isn't that possible? A lot of people were banking on the 50 basis point hike adjustment as being like the catalyst to go bullish again. Well, if that didn't do it, what will? I don't really see much of a narrative here to shift the market straight back up. I don't really see much of a narrative here for crypto with all this SBF news and, just looking pretty bad. The industry just looks really bad right now. It's kind of tough to see this just turning around and all of a sudden just a surprise bullish, trend shift. It's a little bit hard for me to imagine at the moment. And we also got that RSI breakdown. You guys see that? Every time we break the daily RSI uptrend, we flush every single time. If you look here, we did it once again. We've been tracking this on this channel. We alerted you guys the other day that we broke the RSI uptrend, and that is a bearish flush signal that possibly we actually flush to new lows. And something to support that potential possibility of flushing to new lows is if the stock market just keeps going down, that's not going to be driving any confidence, guys. That's going to make people actually look for the exit door. And if you listen to a lot of rich investors right now, there's a bunch of them on YouTube, the guys that actually have money, it seems like they're basically just taking profits whenever they get them here. That if they're longing something and they have a profit, they kind of just take it. People are looking for the exit door out of this market right now, and I do think it's very possible that we hit new lows. And this could mean Bitcoin could see new lows moving into next year. I don't see why not at this point. Things just don't look all too good in general. But that's not to say that it's all over. Of course, crypto at some point is going to find its footing. It could be slightly lower, much lower. It's really all up to the stock market here. Depends on how bad it gets. But of course, it's not all over, guys. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. We're going to find a bottom at some point. It's just looking like maybe not right here. In terms of downside targets, that is all going to be up to the stock market and how fast we continue to correct. And of course, if you're accumulating over the next half year, well, I think ultimately you will be rewarded. But until then, I think we have a little bit more pain to go moving into 2023. But that's it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you all soon.